Okay.
I'd like to
Bag of
call,
umbrellas.
I'd like to call to order
Well,
the
you-
Westford Conservation Commission meeting from May 22nd, 2024. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live by Westford Cable Access TV and recorded for playback online. By attending this meeting, you are consenting to have your likeness and your audio, used and rebroadcast by Westford Cable Access TV. So the first item on our agenda for 7 p.m. is open forum. Do any members of the commission have items for open forum?
You're going to speak about the dedication at the Memorial Park?
Yes, but if you'd like to, you can.
Well,
Okay.
all I know is that it starts at 8:45, is that right?
Okay, so, yes, so at Freedom Park, on Tuesday, a memorial to...
Sunday.
No, on this past Tuesday, a memorial to Francis Sullivan was installed in the park, and on Sunday morning, May 26th, at 8:45 a.m., there will be a dedication ceremony. The public are welcome. Members of Mr. Sullivan's family will be there. So if anybody would like to attend, the more the merrier. Matt, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, do members of the audience have anything for open forum? Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, it's a discussion paving of Stony Brook Conservation Area Access Road from Depot Street to Camp Neshoba. So, this topic is coming up in response to the number of complaints the town receives because of the road condition. So at the last meeting, we identified a subcommittee of the commission to meet with representatives from Park and Recreation and our camp provider Teamworks to talk about options for changing the transportation model, especially where Teamworks implemented their program in 2021 in place of the Marcus Lewis camps that had to exit their contract, and in 2021, people were not willing to put their children onto buses because there were no COVID vaccinations available for children at that time. So we are here now, and we're looking at the contract that we have with Teamworks, and the subcommittee will be meeting with Teamworks and Park and Rec to look at changing the transportation model to return to, for example, what Marcus Lewis did, where kids came in on buses to reduce the number of vehicle trips coming in to the Stony Brook Conservation Area. Part of the purpose for this discussion is to take public input from members of the commission who are not on that subcommittee in terms of questions to ask to our two camp providers, the types of information that we would want to gather for the next set of discussion, which would be a deliberation in the commission's open meeting on June 12th. So I guess commissioners, I've kind of summarized what we're looking to have in that conversation. Do members of the commission have any other thoughts or questions that they would suggest for that initial working session?
I have a question. Was Matt going to look at the number of calls by the DPW to fix?
So we don't have the number of calls to DPW. We have the tracking, the work orders. Excuse me, pollen. The work orders completed by the Department of Public Works staff in addressing roadway calls for maintaining repairing, maintaining the roadway, and there were 4 within between May and September of 2023.
And are we looking for the year 2024 to start tracking the number of calls that the town gets from people reporting issues with the roadway?
Yes, and my initial thought for that to make, to convey to the commission the calls being received, is when, our office and DPW does receive a call, to have them put it in an email so then we can include that in the commission's meeting packet. Because again, you guys don't see it's hard to put a phone call into, a number is a number, but having, I think the emails, having emails sent to the conservation department for inclusion in the meeting packets, just to have as kind of a placeholder and, to show what is being heard from the public who aren't at public meetings.
Okay. Are there any comments, questions, et cetera, from members of the audience? Come up to the microphone if you would, please.
Thank you. I'm Andrea Parana-Sweet. I am president of the Westford Land Preservation Foundation, and as this commission knows, we are the people who hold the CR2 Stony Brook. So just a couple of questions. The subcommittee that is meeting, do you have a date when that is meeting? And is it open to a representative from the foundation to attend that meeting?
At this point, we are looking for dates during the week of Memorial Day. At this point, because this is something new that the camp providers have not heard about, we would like to keep it small. It's very much an information gathering session. As we start to get into the larger conversations about, how the transportation model can be changed, that's where we would bring it back to a public forum so that everybody has the opportunity to hear the points and to weigh in on the conversation, ask questions, make comments, et cetera, so that we have all the information available to everybody.
So the answer to my question is no.
No. At this point, never having met with Teamworks, I'm trying to start off in a very collaborative manner.
And then we want to work collaboratively too. I mean, we agree. Okay, so we would just like to be kept informed, obviously.
The date can be made public, because you're always welcome.
Pardon? I'm sorry?
Will be made
Oh,
public.
yes, the date can be made
But we
public.
can make sure that somebody in the organization, say Andrea, gets a copy of what we decide, and that would be the
Well,
fastest.
my thought of this was to have it be more like a site visit where, the commission can go, get testimony, but deliberation be held in open public meetings so that, ultimate decisions are being made by the commission as a whole, as opposed to, a subset
So the
thereof.
subcommittee would report back in the meeting, and then the
But
conversation would
certainly
go from there?
We could share that when we were meeting, so that if
Yeah.
somebody wanted to come and be there at the same time.
Right, I mean, if you were going to
and
do
see
a site
what we're
visit.
looking at, that would
Yeah,
be fine.
yeah, quite frankly, if you were going to do a site visit and walk the property, I think somebody from the foundation would want to be there, and particularly because, we'd also, like to see what the condition
would be
of
a
the
common
road is
courtesy.
at this point in time, and whether there are ways to address that.
I don't think that I think, Matt, well, I'll let you comment.
No, I don't mean to hold a site visit.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it just, in a similar mechanism to, the commission holding a site visit where, if for, to,
When we go
Yeah.
to an applicant's property, they allow us to come on the property. We see, we get our thoughts, and then we talk about it in our next meeting.
Yeah. Matt, why don't we, whenever we're having any of these, share that with Andrea's, committee, so that they know, and they're always welcome. And then if somebody from your committee wants to come, they'd be present at the same time.
if that's what the commission wants to.
I have no
that's-
problems with that.
Well, I'm good with that, but that's not what's being said here.
Yeah,
So, I think that the
yes,
foundation should be a party to those discussions early on. I would hate to think that we're having discussion and not having them at the table, only to bring something back and saying this is what was discussed. Why aren't they at the table day one?
okay.
Oh, I
Do
swear.
you want to make a motion?
I mean, if that's what the commission wants, we can certainly make sure to keep
And
them
they want a
apprised.
seat at the table. I want them at the table.
Yeah,
Right,
I would
I-
like it that way too. There should be nothing
Jim?
exclusionary.
Andrea would be a perfect person to have at the table with us. Because it's
Absolutely.
the Board of Selectmen that have the contract with the camp operator.
Oh,
You guys had directed the town manager to sign on your behalf.
okay.
But I think that would be, I mean, we gotta go through you guys anyway, anything we wanna be doing to that road.
We'd appreciate it.
I-
As
I
I
think
said,
that's a-
you know, we're trying to work collaboratively with
We're
you.
gonna have to, yeah.
Okay.
whether we
I'd
want
like
to
it
or
that
not.
way too.
I would like it that way.
When does Teamwork start their schedule this summer?
June 17th, is it, or something?
Yeah, it's usually right around the same time school gets out, and I don't really know when that is, but soon.
And how many years are left on the Teamwork contract?
Next year, next summer,
Is the end.
2025.
This one
It's
and
up.
next summer are the last 2 years of the current contract.
Because I think I remember Ellen saying that our terms may have contravened the, whatever's in the CR, right? Our terms of Teamworks? Or their understanding of what they.
All right, but we need to separate what's in the CR versus what's in the master plan.
Right.
And so I think a lot of Ellen's comments were related to the master plan, not the CR, in terms of limiting authorized where vehicles
But the
go.
master plan was adopted by the town and is an indication of what the town's intent was.
The perfect person to have at the table.
Okay,
I think so, yeah.
Okay, and then my last question was, Matt, you mentioned that you were going to, for 2024, you were going to be tracking any complaints that you received about the roadway. So I would also request that any complaints that you received be forwarded to the foundation as well.
I didn't want to be presumptuous and bombard you with the number of emails with which I'm anticipating, but I will most certainly can do that.
Appreciate it. All right.
do you have an email address for that?
You can send it to me on the town's website. I haven't,
Okay.
and you know that because you and I have communicated about other things, so, so you can do that. Okay, that's my comments. So if you would just let us,
Include you in the loop of the
We'll let them know
schedule.
when they're gonna meet.
and
so,
let us know when you repeat, I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item, it's a public hearing for Pickett, 60 Lakeshore Drive South.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024, at 7:05 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application for Gary Pickett for the removal of 5 trees within 100 feet of Nasset Lake at 60 Lakeshore Drive South.
Thank you. Hello, Matt and commission members. My name's Gary Pickett of 60 Lakeshore Drive South. I'm also here with my neighbor at number 62, Robert Walter. And I don't know if you would refer to some of the documents that I sent, but there's the plot plan, yeah, shows that my property on the east side has a lot of trees, and Bob's property on his west side is close to that edge. Setbacks, you know, were established a long time ago. Last year, Bob approached me about his concerns about some of the trees that are overhanging his house and deck. And that's the major reason for my appearance here, and wish to, you know, address his concerns. And particularly the ones marked B on my estimate from New England Tree Masters. It mentions there on B the removal of 1 leader from an oak tree leaning over the neighbor's house, and plus 2 pines under the
So this
also
is
next to the
the
deck.
oak with the leader, right?
So they.
Yes,
So
yes.
we're looking at cutting
Those two there.
that branch
Well-
and leaving the tree? When you say cut the leader, are they removing the oak tree, or are they just cutting branches?
He's cutting it down to the down close to the trunk.
So they're cutting everything.
No,
just the branch.
just the
So-
opposite.
It appears to be dead.
That's
the,
fine by you. If you can, that's a laser, if you can show us which portion of the tree that they're planning to take down, or,
Of this oak tree? Well,
Yes.
Oh, they're taking
probably
it all
cut it,
down.
cut
so
it.
so they would,
See, that's different than what he's saying. He's saying he's gonna take
Quick
1
clar-
liter,
Right, the estimate you have from your tree contractor is to remove 1 liter, not the whole
Not the tree.
Not the tree, right?
Well, I guess I need to know what he means by a leader. I thought it was, there's 2 other trees right next
The other
to it.
place it says like, remove 1 dead hemlock, remove 1 small spruce, talks about the whole tree. This seems like it's talking about a liter
Part of the tree.
part, yeah.
Yeah, it's Rob Walter, the next door neighbor. There's another oak that's up, the picture doesn't give it justice,
Here.
over on the left-hand side. I don't think you could take off both of those branches that are leaning over my property back and let it be a viable tree. That section, you'd probably have to take it pretty close to the existing tree.
so where they,
Is it a
there's a
split tree?
split,
Correct.
so it's taking off one leg of the split.
Yeah,
And then the 2 pine trees that are closest to my house there, they're probably 4 feet and 8 feet, and what's happening is those branches you can see, and so you can see some of them are broken up top, they're coming down and they're damaging my shingles, and they come right on my back porch, and we had a neighbor during one of the big storms, he had just built his home, and he had a tree a little bigger than that, snap right in the middle and pierce straight through
Those 2 little ones,
yeah.
it
the 2
snap and,
smaller ones on the
okay,
left.
so you're talking about the smaller 2 on the left, okay,
Right.
so those I can see.
yes.
So I get that. Now, the bigger one there, I'm just, when I looked at this, it seemed like it was just going to be a piece of it. I just want to have a better standing, because the last thing we want to think is, we're having a limb removed, but we're ultimately having a tree removed.
Or half of a split tree.
Well, and half of it split, all of a sudden somebody says, well, then the rest of it's not viable.
We
And,
want to do what we say. Absolutely. Eric, I agree. It's got to kind of be specific
And I
in,
guess that's what we're just trying to understand,
so,
And all of these could potentially be butt logs too.
So-
They don't have to come all the way down
Well-
to the ground.
so the one that's not showing in this picture, is that fairly straight,
There's
or
two,
is it?
there's 2 together.
yeah. It's fairly straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
So-
wouldn't be compromised with a cut
So,
down to the.
okay, so taking out part of what's in the picture is not gonna all of a sudden upset the balance of the other part of the tree?
No.
Okay, that was where my question was.
The 2 pines are about a foot in diameter, maybe 40 feet tall. Pines have shallow roots, and being so close to Bob's property, I don't think they have, good stability in a sense. So they, the winds are pretty fierce sometimes off of Nab Lake, so.
So when we look at the map that Matt was showing earlier,
Yep.
these 3 trees are B, the 3 Bs?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
And the 100-foot buffer from the lake basically bisects the shed and the house.
Yeah.
And that, based off, I had to look at both 60 and 62's septic plans. 62 was a little bit more recent, but did have, use that as a frame of reference to understand where, and that's why, A, E, and F, those were not included in the, kind of within the commission's jurisdiction. Some of them are also smaller landscape,
Tree number C is a hemlock. It's quite tall, and it's dead. And this is because I'm considering having tree work done. That's what I wanted to have taken out too. It's kind of close to my house, but it's of course in the buffer zone. And photo A is near the street. It's outside the buffer zone, and it's diseased. So I was just going to include that.
5 or 6?
So that's A, so that's outside our
Yeah.
we're
jurisdiction.
dealing with 3 Bs, C, and D.
So we're C.
C is
See,
big
where's the
dead
hemlock?
hemlock.
That one there, yeah.
And that's located between,
It's closer
the
to my house.
dwelling and the
lake.
lake.
It's on the
I
hillside.
can see A. A is the first picture after this. And then we saw the set of Bs, but I was just looking to see C,
It's right,
if you had a picture of C.
Yeah.
I know where it's located.
Right, see, it's the next page.
That's the picture of it, okay.
and the top has already fallen off.
Gary, what was that, like a hemlock like?
It's a- I don't know, it's got fungus on it too, and
Which one is the dead hemlock?
It
There's
doesn't
no-
have a stitch of
I know, I
living.
can see that, but which
it's
tree?
not at all alive, no.
It's dead.
This leaning towards the house, leaning towards the lake.
Dead, I can't,
No, it's pretty
See?
straight. No, it's pretty straight, but it's dead. Dead as a doornail.
Matt, if you scroll down just a little bit, not that one, it's not that one, that's A.
To see,
That's
Yeah.
C.
That,
big one or
that's
the
C.
small
That-
Yeah, no,
that's
it's
the dead
this.
hemlock.
This
That's that one right
it's
there.
dead, it's hard to tell if there's leaves on it or not, but it's.
Yeah, no, I stopped out yesterday, I didn't, that was the first one I noticed.
And it
was-
is dead?
Yes.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
not, there's no vegetation on it right now.
And so D was in the picture along with the bees? If you go up,
the,
because it says bee oak, actually, if you can, no, well,
This is I think this is the small red pine.
is that D? Or is D
yes,
the tall skinny
that's
one
D,
next
yeah,
to it?
that's D.
Is that one, or is it, I think
Or
that's,
maybe
I
that's
think
the,
that's D.
that would make more sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it, that's it.
And that one's just being completely shaded out and not getting a whole lot of life from the pines that are more street side.
Yeah, you can kind of see some.
Place to replace a tree with a lower tree?
Have any objection to that?
Yeah, it's just, is in plant replacement trees somewhere in the buffer, they don't have to, you can choose a native species that doesn't grow as
Right.
tall, so you're not
Yeah, nothing
handing the
that'll
same
harm your
problem to a
property,
future homeowner.
Yeah,
but
But
we
just
like
that will
to
give back to, the
have-
permit and
and
such.
set back,
Well,
exactly
we
right.
like to have, when a tree has to come out, have another tree planted.
Yes.
in
Right down the
replacement.
street, we had, instead of a tree being placed there, we put some holly bushes in there
Yeah,
at
Yeah, I don't
60.
remember, I didn't go on the actual slope. Yeah, 64. Yeah, 64.
Maybe that's something you can talk about with Matt
Yeah,
after the fact.
I mean, whether, some form of
Won't it won't
replanting,
affect your
some,
homes.
native species to
Sure.
whether improve the understory or, a mix thereof.
Number 58.
That would make me feel better.
Yeah, oh, the other side, yeah.
So would you be suggesting 5 trees? Because
Yeah,
five-
or
5 of-
plantings, again, shrub,
5
shrubs, yeah.
plantings, okay, yeah.
And I'd like to see
Although,
the bu-
I will
don't-
say this, I wouldn't want to all of a sudden start replacing tree or shrubs for trees. If we're going to remove one of the things about trees that we want to have near a resource area is, shading and that was one of the things that, Bill Turner always made mention of. So, maybe a combination of the two, but, I would hate to see us forgo trees,
Just for trees.
Yeah.
Right, but where it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think we
Yeah.
need
Exactly.
5. I don't think we need 5 either.
No, I'm just,
Yeah.
But I'd also like to see these turned into butt logs instead of all the way down to the ground, so there's at least some habitat back there.
I don't know if the property is big enough to do that.
Like at 8 foot high.
I'm willing to, this
Yeah.
one that's sitting right in front that's
Yeah.
dead, this hemlock,
What is?
take it out, but I would,
So it's.
she means cutting it off and leaving like a 10 to 12-foot log standing
Yeah, I
straight
know.
up.
What does that do? Help me understand.
Provides habitat for like woodpeckers and other critters
And ants,
that like a dead.
right next to my house?
well, and this where it may be that with C,
Right.
which is not near any dwellings, that's a good place for habitat,
Yeah.
but, do you really want habitat really close to the house?
Yeah, and I wouldn't,
But C's far enough, C's far, I like your idea
The more
though.
habitat, the better.
I think it's a compromise.
If C, the oak is cut off not directly to the ground and it's, as long as Gary's comfortable
And
with
I
it.
don't think it has to be decided tonight. I think we can work it out
Well,
with Matt.
it's a request for determination, so if we give them a determination of
Okay, he's
applicability-
good with C being butt log.
But it's actually on his property, so I'd prefer Gary to give the determination on that.
Yeah, I know, so I hear what your comment is.
If, would the commission be okay with, delegating me to determine,
Yes.
no, two of the 5 and, can be at a,
Yeah, work with
discretion,
them.
okay.
Right.
Work with them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Come up with a plan, you don't
Okay,
have to
can
give
work
it to
with
us right
Yeah.
now, that you can live with, okay?
Yes.
Any other questions? Matt?
Be aim to please.
No, thank you, that's sufficient,
Okay.
for,
So how should I follow up
Oh,
with you?
so, one more thing. I have to ask if there are any members of the audience who have comments or questions on this project. Just, well, Bob's been great at stepping up and providing supporting information, but sometimes other people in the audience may want to have input as well or have questions, so we always try and give them the opportunity. So hearing no comments or questions, the next step is a conditional negative determination, which means you don't need, it's a negative determination, you don't need to do the next level of filing, but it's conditional because Matt will have, some conditions that talk about, different things related to making sure that we are mitigating any adverse impacts of the work.
right, and,
He'll work
Any
it out.
erosion controls or anything
Yeah.
that might be
Yeah,
necessary.
so he'll work that out with you. But so right now, can I have a motion for a conditional negative determination of applicability?
Positive.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
So then, yeah, Matt will be,
I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
and Matt will know hand
You'll
us
be
something to
comfortable
sign.
with what you work out.
Like a deck of cards, take one off the top.
Okay. So moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item, it's Elkin 12 Beaver Dam Drive.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024, at 7:10 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Thomas Elkins for the removal of 2 oak trees and 1 maple tree within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands at 12 Beaver Dam Drive.
Hi, Tom Elkins, 12 Beaver Dam Drive. And as you can see on the request for determination of applicability, I put in just what you said, the maple tree, the oak trees. There is one error on Part B 2A on the second page where I said one of the trees was actually not on my property. Well, I was actually incorrect, and it is on my property. So that is one particular piece that I miswrote. So all 3 trees are in fact on my property. What you'll see, I had an arborist come. These trees do have some issues. The maple tree is the worst one, actually, because it was a V. And you can see in the picture, one of them already fell. And that fell when we were outside, and it was actually a dangerous situation. The tree is completely infested with ants. The arborist did a test, and he's like, yeah, it's pretty hollow. And I'm like, I know, the one arm of it already fell. And it is leaning towards the house and in an area where we hang out. So that is a tree we want to take down. The second tree, that one you can see up, this particular one, you can see at the bottom has a number of cracks. The base of the tree is swelling. And the arborist took a look at that and said, yep, that's also one that's coming down. At some point, it is leaning very much over my property into, again, an area where we habitat, and actually both of these trees could hit my house when they come down. This particular one, he also tested and said it was pretty hollow. There's water, when it rains heavy, it actually comes out of the base of this tree. And then the last tree, which I don't have a picture on the base, it is, sorry, just give me a moment. Yeah, the last tree is just another oak that's pretty hollow. And it's also leaning towards the house. I can't see ants or anything. The arborist didn't see any, so not as bad as the other two, but it is leaning and it's hollow and there's a lot of stuff falling off of it constantly. And his recommendation was to take that one down as well. There's 3 other trees in the property that have a lot of dead branches. We're gonna have those trimmed and whatnot. I prefer to keep the trees, as many as I can. These 3 are just a danger. My plan is to plant a bunch of maples. I actually tap all the maples in my property for sap every year, and so I would be happy to put a whole bunch more maples up. So I'm gonna try to find the largest ones I can. So by the time I retire, I have more sap. So that's really what I'm trying to accomplish.
Noel?
Yeah, what's the distance from the wetland here?
When I was on site, the nearest one was about 15 feet. Again, this house was constructed late 60s, early 70s, so prior to the Wetlands Protection Act and the town's adoption of the local wetland bylaw. In terms of just also other comments from when I visited the site and met with Tom, there were some other ashes that had fallen within the wetlands. So, you know, certainly the soils aren't the supporting, you know, mature trees. And so, you know, I think the proposed plan was to somehow access the, you know, some crane or removable arm, you know, from the backyard. The first, you know, looking at the photos included in the commission's packet, tree 1 is just, you know, is the split maple inside the tree, inside the fence line of the backyard. Tree 2 is just on the opposite, you know, just on the other side. And tree 3, I think, was the closest, and that was about 15 feet from, you know, the bordering vegetated wetlands.
Yeah,
had skunk cabbage.
To Matt's point, we've actually had, there's almost a dozen big ash that were dead, that have fallen. One crushed my fence. I don't know if you could see it in the picture there, but right where it says tree 1, just below that, I'm missing a fence because it fell and took my fence out. We've had a lot of trees fall back there. There's a ton of dead ones still upright. And it's, you know, luckily, they've all been falling, and just the only damage I've had is my fence so far.
So he wants to take down the 3, he's gonna plant some additional tree.
Yeah. I'd like to put up at least 3 maples.
Put up as many as you want.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good.
Matt, do you have anything further?
I have nothing.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience on this application? So can I have a motion for a conditional negative determination of applicability?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So Matt will be in touch with the paperwork.
Okay.
So, yeah, I took one off the top.
Yes. Thank
So,
you.
yeah, thank you very
That's
much.
something I could call you about tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Awesome, thank you.
Moving on to our 7:15 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of the public hearing and issue order of conditions for the Carolus 122 Main Street.
Good evening, Matt Waterman, Land Tech Consultants, here with me, Peter DeCarlis, applicant owner, 122 Main Street, lot number 3, which is the former Hicks Farm on Main Street in Westford. Our last meeting, which was your last meeting a couple weeks ago, May 8th, we went through the project, went through the scope. Just a quick reminder, it's a new single-family dwelling. We keep a portion of the barn that sits on the lot, currently sits on the lot. All the work is restoration within the buffer zones, both the 100-foot buffer and the riverfront buffer. It does include stormwater upgrades and establishes a limit of work. We did have a draft order of conditions that was passed around. We just had minor clarifications that we sent back to Matt, and I believe are incorporated into the most recent set, but we didn't have any further issues.
So there's no additional information we need to talk about for the public hearing itself, it's just now we're focused on the order of conditions.
Yes.
Any comments or questions on the order from members of the commission? In looking back to our site visit, were there invasive species in the area on this site? You know, bittersweet, other stuff?
I don't remember. I know Matt was gonna maybe
This
try and get out there.
afternoon, there certainly is some bittersweet, as with everywhere, but there is some bittersweet at the rear of the pavement. And with that also being said, I did look into, within the special conditions as drafted, there were number 38, the wetland and buffer renaturalization area shall be established as shown on the approved plan. This area shall not be maintained except to keep out non-native invasive plant species unless approved by the commission's or its agent, condition in perpetuity. And also number 40, invasive plants documented within the 200-foot buffer may be removed by hand pulling. Other techniques consistent with BMPs may be reviewed and approved by the commission or its agent. Once again, condition in perpetuity. So I think there is,
Okay, and I was really going off the seventh finding, which talked about clearing of vegetation, and it just kind of tripped the bulb that says, does that include, getting a start on getting rid of the, while we're in there working, getting any invasives out, as part of that activity?
It certainly wasn't as extensive as I've seen in other parts of town.
Okay.
The detention
Yeah, I
basin out
just,
back.
it was, if you're doing stuff and there's invasives there, we'd love it if you got that out as well, so.
Yep.
And the other question I had with condition 52. Condition 53 talks about, the delineation post being in perpetuity. And in thinking about the language that's supposed to go in purchase and sale and deeds for the property, is that something we would have in perpetuity as well, to make sure that people are aware that if they want to do more work on their land, they need, it may be applicable that they need to do a filing with the commission?
My thought is that once it's in the deed, it's in the, people have to do their own, when people purchase, there's gonna, the language in the deed will notify them, they have to read it. They
notify their attorney.
Somebody has to ask a question. Again,
Okay.
with this lot having an order of conditions, upon completion of the project, a certificate of compliance, would be issued. That's also comes up in title reports. And so I think there's,
That's sufficient notice?
and whereas this isn't, the lot, the address for this lot is the address for the lot, it's not going to become, 2 Margaret's Lane later on. This, I think a fairly minimal title search would come up with sufficient information about that there is something going on with this lot.
Okay. Do any members of the audience have comments or questions on this application for this project? So we're, no questions. Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as written?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much.
Just want to make sure that's,
Okay.
that's right.
Moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item. This is a public hearing for Ram Realty Investment Incorporated, 7 Craig Circle.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024, at 7:20 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street. Consider the notice of intent application of Michael
Zaneku?
Zanicku
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Ram Realty Investments, Inc. for clearing and grading associated with the replacement of a septic system leaching area within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands and bordering land subject to flooding at 7 Craig Circle.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not Michael. My name's Chris McKenzie. I'm from Dillis and Roy. Here to present this project. I brought I don't want to call it a revised plan. It's not revised yet, but I brought a copy of it if anybody wants to look at it. If Matt can bring up the plan view up there. This project is a new septic system for an existing dwelling. There's an addition going on that's outside of the buffer zone. As you can see, it's an as-built foundation under construction at the time we started doing this work. The leach area was designed initially a little further downhill. You can see there's 2 test holes. They're labeled 1223-1, 1223-2, and Perk A that are downhill in the buffer zone. The purpose of that was that the existing system is right where the new system is going. So initially, the design called for the new leach area to be where the test holes are. The Board of Health asked us to move the leach area outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. And therefore, they're going to require us to do some confirmatory testing where the new system's going. They didn't do this testing at the time they were out there because it could damage the existing system and then they wouldn't be able to use it. So they need to be able to use the system in between the testing date, which was back in December, and until they got a new system put in. So they need to be able to use the system. So we couldn't dig in the system area, so we had to dig outside it, and the Board of Health wanted us to move the system outside the buffer, and we'll do new testing for that. So that said, the work that's being proposed within the buffer zone on this site is really just inside the erosion control barrier shown there, and it really consists of fill required to meet the breakout requirements of Title V for a septic system. It basically goes out 15 feet to a 3-to-1 slope and then tapers off till it meets up with the existing grade.
It's a better plan than what he had before. He's further away from the resource area, so.
Well, isn't the existing,
Sorry.
this is the approximate leach field now,
Yeah.
correct? Right, okay.
That's approximate, of course.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, it's, it is to the standard.
It's just outside instead of just inside.
Right, I mean, and, my concern would be, my one question is, could a retaining wall be installed to limit the clearing that is being done just to catch a grade?
It could, but it's not really recommended on the Board of Health level. They would prefer no retaining walls or barriers of any sort in that breakout area.
Is there less clearing going on because he's putting it nearer to where the existing one is, the leaching field?
Well,
I mean, it's got to be in an area that's already cleared.
That actually,
But if you look at there's a very faint that shows where the existing tree line is, that just kind of skirts a little bit below, and then you see where the new tree line is, kind of just.
Yeah, but a septic line is in like 226, 225. I think that's outside of the treat area. He's
Right.
not in that 24, 23, 22 zone.
Right, but he's clearing this.
Coming down to there.
so can I clarify something on here? There's a typo on this plan. The original plan, as I mentioned, had the leach area in this area right here where the test holes are. The limit of clearing at that time was this line. When the Board of Health asked us to revise the plan, no one went back and fixed the tree line.
So
We
the
fixed
tree
the
line-
erosion control, but we didn't fix the
So we
tree
can
line.
bump those up.
Okay, well,
Tree line is, the finished tree line is gonna follow this heavy line right here. All the way around. It's not coming way down here. That's not gonna happen.
so I had a question because the new grade line shows going,
That's incorrect. Again, that tree line is gonna run out here where
oh,
this
okay.
heavy
so-
dash
so-
line
so-
is.
So
Right.
the tree line to the left of the septic is going to actually be moved over towards the erosion control line.
That's correct. And then down here, none of these trees are not being removed down here.
Okay.
The limit of the tree cut is gonna be right along this heavy dash line, which is the proposed erosion control barrier. If I had a copy of the original plan, you would have seen that the erosion control barriers followed this tree line on our original plan.
Okay.
Are we gonna have any posts put in along that?
Well,
That might be an idea, yeah.
What'd she say?
yeah, posts.
Conservation posts.
Well, it just, and I guess, do we,
And where does this get documented?
because they're
exactly where
outside
it
the,
is?
Well, first of all, he's got a plan. We're looking at a plan that's not the plan.
I mean, it's a
Right.
notice, it's a
an
notice of
interim
intent,
plan.
so, you know, I'm gonna need to draft order a special
Yeah.
condition,
So, but we'll have a chance to come back and see his other plan.
yeah,
Well, the only difference on that plan is the tree line's I have it redlined on here.
Okay.
On this, it's just gonna come down and catch here and come around right along that and come back up to the house.
now, how many trees in the buffer zone how many mature trees are you taking out?
I don't have a number. I haven't counted.
Something we could get to, right?
Yeah, and that would be a piece of information, you know, saplings, no, what we're concerned about is mature trees coming down, because we,
What diameter is your limit?
I mean, public shade tree herrings, 4 inches.
so 4 inch. Yeah, and just in terms of when trees come down in the buffer zone, a lot of times we'll ask for replacement trees to be planted, not in the same location, but in, you know,
Tree for a tree.
a tree for a tree, and if, you know, for example, if there are places where in the buffer zone it's kind of open and there's a place, and it doesn't have to be a tree that grows really tall, it could be something, you know, a native tree that maybe tops out at 20 or 30 feet.
I don't have any issue with that. Obviously, I'm not the one paying for any replacement trees. However, in this area where the tree removal is going to happen, you really need that area to stay clear of trees.
And we
We
wouldn't
understand
want,
that.
we wouldn't
So-
want them there, but it just, if there was 20, we had one where I think it was 15 trees were being removed so they could put in the septic, and it's like, we'd like to have a renaturalization someplace
Right.
that's,
How many trees here?
well,
Well,
no,
that's
we
what we
don't know
don't
yet.
know, so we're gonna get that in, you know,
Yeah,
we're gonna
and then-
continue this.
And then just
request for
you
determination.
know, a restoration plan someplace that has
Yeah.
trees.
Okay,
So I can figure it out.
Yep,
okay, you're not alone.
So what do we have on the list for when you come back?
Fix that tree line on the
Okay,
drawing.
tree line,
Count
How many trees?
go ahead, sir.
Count the number of trees,
Trees to be cut down, okay?
So that we can say how
Right.
many more
Just
we
say-
want planted.
provide a replication.
And we're gonna put markers along roughly where the proposed erosion control barrier is?
I mean, I'd have it be at the 100, I mean, if
Would be
the
around-
slope does need to be, if the slope needs to be annually mowed, then, you know, then, you know, I'd want that as a condition and conservation posts located at the extent of the erosion control, you know, at the extent of limit of work, you know, every, you know, 30 feet. Just so that, you know.
So this will be continued.
well, we need orders of conditions, so we have no option but to continue.
Okay.
You got the list of items, Matt?
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll follow, we'll again continue this to the, if, you know,
Does continuing to June 12th work?
So when?
June 12th, which is our next meeting? Or,
That's 3 meetings that night, and I can only
mean,
make
if-
it to one of them.
I mean, if,
Yeah, I mean,
well, we've got the
I'm actually
26th.
here replacing someone else.
Okay.
Seth was supposed to be here tonight. I was hoping to get Seth to take my other one on the 12th, but we'll make sure somebody's here.
Okay.
I
Okay.
won't be able to be here, but somebody will
Yeah,
be here.
but, well, and if, you know, if you, because we're assuming that you want the order of conditions because you're ready to get going on the work. So yes, June 12th would be our next meeting.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to June 12th?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
So moving on to our 7:30 PM agenda item, which is continue public hearing and issue of order of conditions for Spalding Hill Homes Incorporated, 22 St. Paul Lane.
Good evening, everyone. Mark Slager from Allen Engineering, here on behalf of Spalding Hill Homes. For last meeting, we decided to, or I asked to continue it because we had to add some roof drain systems onto the plan. The prior plan had a stone drip edge around the foundation, and the engineering department felt that the roof drains would, leaching system would provide a much better alternative. So I did that. It didn't really affect anything in the buffer zone, but I just figured it'd be appropriate to have the same plan for everybody to use. So here we are. I reviewed the draft order of conditions and don't have any issues. I know condition number 42 you were discussing, which is the notification to the future owners, the current owners and future owners. And as Matt mentioned on the prior hearing, it will be a notice within the deed itself, so any future owners will be aware of the condition.
Are there any mature trees that are being, in the buffer zone that are being removed for?
For this fill, that area is actually fairly open. I don't recall how many there actually are there. There may be 3 or 4 fairly mature trees. Again, I don't recall that specific area, but, maybe 3 or 4 trees.
Where the roof drain is that what we're talking about?
No,
there?
it's,
No, right there, the grading in the buffer zone.
Oh, okay, right there.
yeah.
The system.
Man-made grading.
How dense?
Those already taken down though, because
No.
you graded out this site, I thought. I thought most.
No, we didn't grade it out. They cleared it to the buffer zone. And, but they didn't stump it. There's portions of the front of the lot that are regraded based on the road construction, but none of the other work has been done yet, just cleared.
How densely vegetated is that wooded area of the buffer zone?
Not very dense at all. I don't know if you recall our site walk for the trail, which is right in behind that lot. It is fairly open. There's not a lot of understory in there either. But it's got a decent tree canopy. It's just that the trees are spaced out quite a bit.
With not a lot of limbs or anything lower?
No, there's not a lot of low limbs in there either, in that area either.
I'm wondering if understory planting someplace might be, in place of, to replace the trees being taken down for the grading, some understory planting in the buffer zone, so that you're starting to add to the wildlife habitat. And Eric, you're looking.
No, I'm hearing out what you're saying. Yeah, if they're gonna have to grade out and they're gonna have to remove tree, let's have them put it out somewhere else on the property. That's what we
Yeah, I
would
mean,
request.
we'd probably, in that area, I don't expect it to be mowed, on a 3-to-1 slope.
But I mean, we
You have
can't
any
put any,
suggestions
you
for-
can't put trees back on that slope after you grade it out because it'd be too close to your septic. So we need to, find other locations on that lot to put,
Or understory,
a
yeah.
replacement tree or understory, I should say.
Understory
I think
enhancement.
over where it says, where the labels are for the silt fence and mulch wattles, right in that area, somewhere between the 75 and the 100 foot, probably a pretty decent area for some plantings.
Okay.
Suggested plantings?
That does.
Yeah, I mean, on this-
I can come up with a couple,
Yeah, and on this particular site, I mean, I remember how long we were out there and looked at all this, and then, so much of it all came down, to the extent that we can put up trees wherever we can out here, let's put up trees.
Okay.
Been a tremendous loss of tree up here.
Hey.
Where can I put that in what special condition can I add that to? Well, I can propose a special condition number 46, after at the end, native tree plantings, replacement trees shall be planted at a 1-to-1 ratio, for mature trees removed within the buffer.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience on this, filing for this project? No. If there are no further questions from members of the commission, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as amended?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our 7:35 PM agenda item is discussion of a draft enforcement order for Archstone Builders LLC, 254 Concord Road.
Here I am again. And for the record, Mark Slager from Allen Engineering on behalf of Archstone Builders LLC. This is the farmhouse that's on Concord Road and Carlisle Road intersection. It was subdivided into 2 lots via A&R. There's an order of conditions on the new house that's being constructed. No work has been done out there yet, although they were maintaining the field. Unfortunately, they maintained the field closer than what was expected out of the order of conditions. There were no markings out there, although the landscapers were advised to where they were supposed to mow. But apparently they didn't heed to that advice. On Monday, I was out there and I staked all of the conservation post locations, and on this particular lot, they are fairly close together. They were about 25 feet apart. I went by there this afternoon on the way to the meeting, and all of the markings that I had, the wooden stakes with the conservation posts where they're supposed to go are still there, but the posts haven't been installed yet. I'm assuming they're waiting for laborers or whatever. So I will check with the builder tomorrow and find out what the status of that is and shoot an email off to Matt. Fairly clearly delineated as to where they're gonna stop mowing at this point.
Restoration area, where are the, can you put up that the diagram if we could? Where do the conservation posts go there? 'Cause I couldn't-
They're kind of,
Only
so,
find 8 out of the 9.
yeah, so, 1,
This area here,
2,
go along here, maybe?
yeah, there are these little boxes with,
But I mean, where are they?
and then they go, so they,
Follow that line.
yeah,
Right here, right?
yeah.
No, there's one by the
Right in the
56.
middle there.
1, 2, 3,
There's
Right
one,
here, too.
yeah, but there's one out near the,
On this side?
Okay, I see it. This is the important one. We got it. Good.
yeah,
and there's one way over here too, near the roadway.
yeah, it was,
Okay.
you know, kind of went from 55, the 55 to the 30, back out to the 55. And I don't know,
Now, in the order, it doesn't say that the split rail fence and the conservation posts are in perpetuity.
It-
Is that where we would put that?
I can quickly look up the,
Well, was there a plan to put in a split rail fence, or is the
in
split
the-
rail fence just
It's in the order.
an
I-
extra layer
I-
of protection
I-
besides the posts?
I put in.
It's in order
the
number
con-
3.
Yeah, right, again, so this order, this enforcement order wasn't issued.
Right,
I-
it's a draft.
Right, so I included that as, a, physical barrier for future landscapers to heed the, to not
So
encroach.
supplementing the posts.
Yes.
So that's something that's in the enforcement order, because I didn't see it on the plan.
Yeah, that's-
in the order.
That was, again, and so, if the commission feels that the conservation post, the conservation posts are sufficient, that's, kind of, again, included it in there, can just as easily delete it if the commission feels the conservation posts are.
Okay with just the post, but
Okay.
if we even having the posts, I want them to be marked, indicated as in perpetuity.
Yeah, I'm quickly looking at, I'm looking at.
Well,
And they're 25 feet apart. They're pretty close.
Well, no, in the original order of conditions, was the condition about the conservation posts in perpetuity?
I'm looking at that right now.
Okay, sorry.
and froze the screen, so you don't have to see me scrolling around through folders. Special condition 52, prior conservation posts were allowed condition in perpetuity. So again, it's just kind of we're preempting the start of the project and getting the conservation posts there, so.
And I think, was your thought to put in the split rail fence because we've had mowings in the fall, we've had mowings in the spring, and.
Right, but if the commission feels that conservation posts, and were the posts marked, were the posts located on the lot 3A, the adjacent lot?
Lot 3A did not need a conservation filing.
Right, but you've mowed within the wetland buffer of it, so that was my rationale for having the conservation posts installed,
That's why you put 3A in the enforcement order draft.
Yes,
also.
3A and 2A.
Okay.
So again, that was what I was hoping to achieve was, a continuous line of conservation posts. Even though, yes, that lot 3A isn't, the mowing still occurred of the buffer. And probably
And
that
also the
wetland,
corner of the
yeah,
wetland.
and probably that wetland flag, A111, was, the vegetation was removed, so.
If the commission wants additional posts along the 30-foot buffer every 25 feet, do
55.
that on lot 3A.
We'll stop mowing.
Yeah, I would,
All for it.
Sure.
I think I have it at the 55.
Yeah.
Fence. Lot of-
You don't happen to have a plan on lot
Electric
3A, do you?
This is the extent of the lot line. And just continue.
Yeah, I think we can do it at the 55 in that particular case, because there's so much of the lot available up front.
Right, that was,
Plus, it's in the estimated habitat area, so the more buffer we give them, the better.
okay.
So are members of the commission,
Comfortable with that.
It seemed like there was a lot of
Ed,
support for a fence.
okay.
Okay.
So we like the way you wrote it.
Wait, yes for offense, no to the fence?
Yes.
I said personally had said I didn't think so, but I was
Okay.
hearing a lot of opposition,
Well, it
I
just,
so I'm fine with a fence.
okay.
Maybe we just stick with the posts and see how it works?
And we already saw how it worked with the plans, and the plans didn't work.
You saw how it didn't work.
Yeah, there was nothing out in the field to delineate it, so.
True.
It'll get mowed with posts. Put up the fence.
Yes,
I go for-
especially
I go
if,
for it.
especially as the vegetation grows up, the post will be less obvious. Okay, so can I have a motion to ratify the enforcement order?
To issue the enforcement order.
I'm sorry, can I have a motion to issue the enforcement order?
Moved.
All those in
Wait,
favor?
one more question.
Okay, wait,
In the enforcement order, that's the only place that the split rail fence up gradient of the markers is listed.
Yes.
We were relying on the in perpetuity phrase with regard to the conservation posts in the draft, in the original order of conditions, but there's no mention of the fence, because there wasn't one. So how do we make the fence perpetual?
and do we feel we need to once
Well, if we're gonna have
Yes.
it- if
turn
we're
over
gonna
to the
have it-
homeowner?
Absolutely.
If we're gonna have
If
it-
somebody will just come and take it down.
That's,
I don't know where it goes.
I mean, I
What
mean,
gets- what gets
I mean, I
filed?
think, I guess it can be written into the post, the split rail fence, shall be maintained in perpetuity, and noted in the certificate of compliance.
That would-
I mean, again,
That
it
gets
was,
filed, the certificate
That
of
makes
compliance,
it,
so
that
that's
makes
good.
it very
The
complete.
certificate of compliance gets filed.
right, I mean, and,
That makes it permanent.
again, it notes the,
Okay, good, sorry to interrupt.
no, I think that's a
Yeah,
good,
you're
that's a
right.
good point.
So can I clarify, we're doing the split rail fence in lieu of the posts? What do you want the post and the split rail fence?
Doing both.
Yes, both.
I just thought it'd be easier to put the markers right on the fence itself, instead of having the posts. 'Cause the posts and a split rail fence are typically, 8 feet apart, as opposed to 25. So if we have signs on like every other post.
But aren't the posts designed of material that they would outlast a split rail fence?
If you use cedar posts. which is typically what they
They're
use.
all gonna last forever, because it's how they're gonna be
I don't
maintained.
have a problem with that, every other post having the, instead of.
Some signage?
Okay, so what we're talking about now is instead of installing the conservation posts, installing a split rail fence along the line of those posts.
And using those posts.
And
as-
using those railings as the markers and post, and
So-
putting
On the
a
actual
marker on every
So
other
they
post.
Is the
In
fence
essence,
up
they replace
as
the,
our
the
posts?
4x4 posts.
And they'll stick up higher than the 4x4 posts as well.
That's fine.
Okay.
I will work the order to amend that.
So amending, you're talking about amending the enforcement order or amending the?
Amending the enforcement order.
Okay.
And again, and make a comment in here that, the,
It'll be in
the,
perpetuity.
right, yeah,
Can be maintained in perpetuity and no.
as subject to the special condition.
Okay, so, let's forget the previously seconded motion. Can I have a motion to issue the enforcement order as amended?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those, no, nobody. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much.
That's for y'all to sign.
Thank you, okay. Moving on to our
I'm freezing.
I mean, you can crack a.
Agenda item.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to put that on the record that you got cold. Now the facilities director's never gonna listen to me.
And I should wear a sweater. Crack a window.
So, moving on to our 7:40 PM agenda item, it's a discussion of a draft enforcement order for Cataldo 13 Pine Tree Trail. Hello?
Hi.
So for the record, you are,
Sorry, I'm Michael Cataldo, 13 Pine Tree Trail.
okay, I'm used to engineers who
Yeah, I
just
know.
sit down and know exactly what to say.
And I'm Caitlin Cataldo.
Thank you.
Previously, beginning of April, it was observed that trees had been removed from the property at 13 Pine Tree Trail. Photos, there are photos somewhere. Upon, I think that was a Friday, Saturday, upon returning to the office, the assistant town planner reached out with a letter to the property owners. Due to the proximity of the trees being cut, to the brook that passes through, Nabnasset Country Club, thought, violations may have occurred. The draft enforcement order was prepared, additional photos of the stumps being, removed, or after the stumps being removed. I don't know if Michael, do you have anything to add or to the effect? Again, I was out of the office when this was initially occurring, and so the findings detail the kind of course of actions, as opposed to an after the fact request for determination of applicability. It may be best handled through an enforcement order, as the work had already occurred. I think that's all I have to, and again, the numbers of trees in the order is something would request the commission.
Some of the pictures, we saw something like 8 or 9 stumps before they were ground. I don't remember how many exactly, was it 8?
8 or 9. How many trees were taken down?
The enforcement said 8. I honestly don't know. I counted, I think, 8 stumps in that
Something
photo,
was
so
in
it
that.
might have been 8 or 9. I don't know for sure, but that's within reason.
Marquis would have that information, of how many trees were cut down.
How much did they charge?
So we got trees down, what's the restoration gonna be like?
So it would be
Placing.
the order, have a planting plan prepared of native trees and or shrubs, again, based on the previous discussions tonight, certainly more trees than shrubs. Again, I know, in speaking with the property owner, that the concern, with the trees was safety to the property, as they had.
How close were they to a subject property, as a residence?
So our house is right there, so this is as you could, if you wanna go back to the photo, Matt, so this area is all.
Wasn't there a photo over our house? Look at the
Oh,
aerial
yeah.
proximity.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can
It's
get,
very close to our home.
I can get one quickly as you keep talking.
Show it. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lawn area on the side of our driveway, and so right on the other side of the driveway is the house. So these trees that were cut down were very, very tall pine trees. So that's an area where our kids play, and when you were sleeping at night, you would literally hear creaking back and forth. So we cut those trees down. Obviously, there is the channel that comes from Nabnasset, which is really granite blocks, and then out in that area is right behind the existing trees is the golf course.
So where's this house, Matt?
So this is the dwelling, the brook, the outlet, after it leaves, the granite
Yeah.
blocks, and the stream as it passes through Nabnasset Country Club. The trees were removed in the area north of the driveway. Again, you can see that in there so
a lot of the concern here was A, the tall pines hitting the house, but also the creaking. I mean, if you talk to anyone in the neighborhood, last summer was very windy. We had a lot of storms, and you could just hear creaking. We also had a lot of branches falling. They were literally piercing the ground, and we took the trees down.
So you observed a lot of dead branches on the trees themselves?
Oh yeah, two of the trees were completely dead.
Okay.
There was no
And-
vegetation on the top of the trees that we could see.
I think there was one oak, the rest were all tall pine trees.
So did an arborist make any determination?
No, we did nothing ahead of this, and I guess in talking with Matt, I've learned what we should have done, but we cut these trees down for safety, and, I'm here to tell you, I'm happy to replace trees. We didn't want to lose the trees, but we have 2 young children that play out in that area, and the proximity to our house, we cut the trees down.
So you reached out to Marquee Tree, that was your contractor that you used to remove the trees?
They cut the trees for me, yeah.
See, and that's what bugs me too.
Yeah.
They know better. And somebody should have come before us,
Or at least told the informed the
and I'm
homeowner, yes,
not-
you're near
yeah,
a
that there's
wetland,
an
are you
issue.
aware of, we
And he's a local
deal
tree
with
guy.
them enough, that they should have made you aware.
They knew more than you knew.
Yeah, they knew more than you knew.
So I mean, I think,
That's water under the
I don't wanna
bridge.
blame
No,
them.
actually, it's not water under the
Yeah.
bridge. It's how are we gonna deal with this situation in the future so it doesn't occur again in the
You
future?
want to send a letter to
And I
the.
think that was one of the things that when this
still in progress.
that we're drafting a letter to all companies that do tree removal in Westford, because a lot of them come in here for projects where the homeowner is filed, and it's like, if the homeowner, ask the homeowner, have you, I see wetlands in the area, have you been in touch with the conservation? And if the homeowner is not aware of it, that at least gives you the opportunity to then reach out and follow the process. But, yeah, I mean, they're kind of like the first, if you're not aware, they're an opportunity for you to kind of get ahead of the situation. No?
What's the distance from the wetlands?
It's probably 75, 80 feet. Again, I can measure that again, assuming these are the pines removed.
It's kinda hard to tell with that area.
Yeah, I mean,
because,
it's, again,
I tried
it-
to look too, but
Yeah, I mean, so this is, about 60 feet, about 60 feet, but again, it's, what's
I
the,
think, I think the biggest thing here, just to communicate to you folks, is that I didn't think of that as a wetland, so, education, shame on me. This was a grassed area where it's been mowed for a long, long time, and the trees were cut in that. So, you know, I don't wanna blame my tree company, you know, I asked for these trees to come down, and I'm happy to replant trees. Like I said, we didn't want, you know, that's a nice buffer that we have there, and we
So you'd be happy to have trees to, maybe not in the same location, but trees to give you buffer to the adjacent property?
sure.
No, not the property, the golf course, because we're gonna get,
Yeah.
we don't wanna get hit with golf balls
Okay,
is
yeah.
ultimately the
Okay.
objective there,
But
You can
yes.
plant shorter trees.
Part of us wanting to reach out to the tree company is in places they have actually cleared down to the edge of the wetlands. You're a significant distance away. In other cases, we've seen them go right to the edge of the
And it wouldn't
wetlands.
single out the ones that you used.
No, but I
Because
just,
It would
you
be
know,
a picture for us of the whole.
we're not here to deny anything, we weren't trying to hide anything.
We're not saying you are.
Yeah, no, and I don't wanna blame them for this.
But they do it for a living, so they should know.
And
It
they
gives us
could
an
let you know,
opportunity.
they could have made you, you know, ask questions to see if you're aware. They could have made this process a lot easier on you.
Again, you know, the first 2 public hearings were for people removing trees, and they were directed by the tree companies. Hey, you should go talk to conservation. So, you know, some are aware, you know, there's they're the professionals.
Yes.
But it gives us a chance to educate. We say, oh, it's happening too many times. We need to remind people.
So,
Well,
so what are we suggesting for trees that they plant?
I mean, again, in terms of, you know, it can be species, Mike, you may have intimate knowledge or people who you could rely on to suggest plantings with which would provide A, good screening, B, also not be.
If I could be very blunt to the commission, what I would like to do is propose some plants right now, show you where I wanna plant them, and plant them before the next meeting, and show you photos that they're planted, and the only reason I say that is spring planting season kinda closes June 15th.
You'd rather get
We don't
them
want
to
this in
ground.
our life, we want
Yeah.
this,
I mean, if
This
it's
back
okay
and-
with
Why
the.
can't you work it out with your?
Right, I mean, so, you know, in the order, you know, it was to have, you know, a planting plan, and again, it can be, you know, it doesn't need to be engineered, it can be.
I'm happy
you
to
know,
do that for
You know,
you.
and subject to, you know, kind of,
Vegan Commission used to do this
right, that's,
in
and,
a simple way.
and
okay?
so
I
if,
have no trouble with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, you mean letting Matt review the plan outside of a meeting and just say,
That would work for me.
Can we get a tree count from Marquis so that we know how many?
yeah, we can certainly,
Jim, you have a question?
Yes. One of the things in the order, number 3, is a required survey of the property and monumentation.
just again I mean, it's an older, when I looked online to try to understand where the property is, because again, GIS is good enough, but not certainly something to rely upon.
Stands to get it surveyed.
Well, the survey, the most recent plan at the registry was, I think, from the 1930s, when Nabnasset Shores was developed and every lot was about 4,000 square feet. So this lot is an amalgamation of, you know, a couple different lots. So that was my only, you know, I added it. If the commission, you know, if we can, you know.
Well, that's
it's
like Jim said, that's not cheap to do.
Yeah.
Well, no, I understand that. So, you know, it was just.
Not for the purpose of marking a boundary of don't
Well, I
go
guess-
beyond it.
I've lived there literally for 39 years. I
Oh, okay.
bought the home for my
Okay.
parents. So, I mean, this has been grass as long as I can remember. And maybe that's why there hasn't been a survey for a very long time. So I've been a
He's talking about the boundary though.
resident.
Yeah, and
I
I
think
mean,
the concern is, you know, for example, if you're planting the trees where you'd like them, part of what our concern is that they get planted on your property, not the golf courses. You know, is that's the only thing. Also, if you'd like to, you know, if you wanna have your buffer to the golf course, would you actually be planting more than 8 trees? Or you're just,
I'm, you know, I'm not opposed to planting more than 8 trees, you know.
my thought was, if you intended to plant more to give yourself the buffer, you know, if you were going to plant more than 8 trees, then finding the exact number is not necessarily as important.
As long as they're all native.
Yeah. You know, if you say, I really want to give myself a good buffer,
I think it would be good to have a nice buffer there, and I think we're willing to
Definitely.
do that. You know, if your commission's a lot,
I mean, it just in terms
willing
of,
to let me work that out with Matt, I'm happy to do that. Again, you know, I'm
Yep.
happy in the
that's
next, to
good.
get those plants in the next 2 weeks.
okay, yeah, so work with Matt and, what you wanna have, and, if it's more than 8, then we really don't need to know just exactly what the count was, because you're doing at
Because
least.
you're gonna plant more than what came down.
Yeah, and that would be good.
Why the monumentation and the?
Again, it was more just if we're going to have, just more of a concern about directing people to do something on somebody else's property.
You're gonna strike that?
Yeah, I mean, but I can, but I'm, I, and I, and,
I didn't hear that
and
part.
Are you gonna
Michael.
strike it?
I can, as, again, this was a draft for discussion,
So you will strike it.
Well,
I think it's a
Well, let Matt
very
finish his-
expensive action that doesn't get really much benefit at all, because
Okay.
if they cut these trees down, presumably they're on their own property. Presumably they'll put the trees that they're gonna plant on their own property too.
Well, so if you plant the trees, I think you do it along the edge of the lawn rather than,
That's where we'd like to put them
Yeah.
towards the buffer that's existing.
And again, now it's going,
You'll work that out.
it's making sure it's close.
He just wants to make sure he's not planting those trees on somebody else's
Yeah.
property.
Right.
Fine.
and that becomes, that's part of your plan, is making sure that the trees you're planting are on your property and not
Somebody
adjacent
else's,
property.
yeah.
But yeah,
But we don't need to go through the
Survey.
surveying and all
Yep, I
that.
can- I
Just
can-
make sure that they're on the, not so
homeowner's
on the
property.
edge, that there's that.
So we'll work with
Question.
Matt.
Matt's gonna strike that, right?
Yes, I will remove number 3, and again, kind of clarify the language in number 1, and, with your expedited timeline to get things done, it shouldn't, I'll leave the timeline as is, but you can blow us away and be done before then.
well, and the planting plan to be reviewed and approved by the agent.
Right, yeah, no, leave that,
Oh.
but, within 2 months as opposed, it can
Okay.
be within, 4
Okay,
days.
it looks
4
like
days as
this-
opposed to 2 months.
Yeah,
Right,
but this says this plan shall be reviewed and approved by the commission
Approved.
or its agent.
It says it's
Oh,
agent.
commission, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
by
Oh,
its
you
agent.
wanna add in or its agent, right?
Yeah. So that we're not, we get rid of the language that talks about the regularly scheduled meeting.
Yep.
That would kind of tie us up.
Matt, you provide them with changes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Yeah, we gotta
okay.
vote.
Yeah, so can I have a motion to issue the enforcement order as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we're done. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You didn't ask the audience,
Thanks,
but
Matt.
that's okay, I guess.
Okay.
And it is cold in here. Freezing.
I won't come here without a sweater.
Is this the next?
Yes, that's the next one.
Okay.
It's wicked cold
So,
for me.
moving on to our 7:50 PM agenda item, it's IMG Homes LLC 71 Powers Road.
For the record, Chris Anderson with Hannigan Engineering. With me is Matt Giese, the applicant of the project. So we're before you tonight for a minor modification to an existing order of conditions. That was issued back in the end of 21, beginning of 22. Since that time, our office has performed a property line survey as well as a title search into the ownership of the various parcels of land. As part of the original project, there was supposed to be a trail that would be constructed from Powers Road going back into the property. It was found that the parcel of land that said trail was going to be on is technically not owned by the applicant. So we couldn't legally put that trail into the project in itself. In addition to that, part of the property line along the northerly edge of the property has shifted as well, ultimately forcing us to reconfigure the property relative to the zoning requirements of the zone. Excuse me. What we've done so far is we've gone before the planning board and ZBA for minor modifications to the plans in order to reflect a modification in the layout of the site. For all intents and purposes, the general roadway, if you will, infrastructure has remained the same. What we've done is we have relocated the buildings to meet the appropriate setbacks. And as you can see on this plan in front of you now, the red line is the original approved building layouts, and the newer buildings are shown on the plan as it is. So as you can see, originally there were about three buildings in the setback, or the 100-foot buffer zone. There's now gonna be 4, with the 4th being a marginal corner of one of the buildings. But relative to the actual work that's inclusive within the buffer zone, the restoration plan, the plantings and everything like that, that was originally approved, it's our intent to maintain that as part of the original design. So the restoration of the 50-foot and the additional plantings have remained unchanged. And effectively, all we've done is just shifted the buildings around on the site themselves. We've gone through review with engineering department relative to stormwater management. They've signed off on those modifications, and at this point, we're just requesting a minor modification to the layout of the buildings, as well as granting an extension to the order of conditions for an additional 2 years to allow for the construction to be completed.
Any questions from members of the commission?
In the original plans then, if we had any kind of conservation markers,
I'm just pulling that up right now.
because I mean, it's,
Thought we
I
did in
don't,
the
I'm
past.
having a little difficulty with looking at this as just a minor change. I'm surprised, with the boundaries and the locations of everything changed, that the planning board thought it was just a minor one. But it's a different shaped piece of property. All 5 buildings are in different locations. There's more buildings within the buffer zone than there were before.
So yes, there was conservation.
I couldn't find.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, so in the Hannigan Engineering, was not the engineer of record when this was originally approved. So the original approved plans were from, I think, Dilson Roy, and special condition 57 of the
Original order of conditions.
of the order of conditions did include conservation posts 50 feet along the limit of work, and plan shall be submitted to the commission, for review showing the location of the posts. Going back, so there is work being performed within the 55, but these plantings as shown, the work inside of the 55-foot buffer was to renaturalize previously disturbed areas. And that was included and discussed and approved by the commission in the original order of conditions as that was previously degraded, and disturbed through the course of that property.
So the very dark hatched line, yes,
That's the erosion,
okay.
that's the erosion control. Just inside that line is the 55-foot no disturb buffer. And the erosion control is kind of this longer dashed line that includes the renaturalization areas inside of the 55-foot buffer. So it is consistent with the proposed plan with respect to renaturalization of, is consistent. There weren't conservation posts in reading special condition 57, doesn't appear that there were conservation posts shown, but they were to be installed 50 feet along the limit of work. Again, up gradient of the renaturalization areas.
They should be added onto this
Well, I mean-
modified plan then, right? They're not disappearing there, it's still gonna be there.
Right, I don't think they were on the original plan, because it says prior to the installation of the posts, a plan shall be submitted to the commission or its agent for review and approval showing the locations of the posts.
Okay.
So I think this is,
Anytime then before certificate of completion.
Well, yeah, so I guess my concern is, so technically that's something that would be, if posts were not put in, it wouldn't get caught until there's a request for certificate of compliance?
certificate of occupancy, prior to the issuance of the first C of O.
Oh, okay, so okay,
the
so the
first
post
time,
would need to be there before there's occupancy?
yes.
Okay. Do I have any other questions?
So, why did they need to tweak them the way they did? I mean, it seems like in the original plan.
So, the original.
Red outline buildings, and then I'm seeing as what's being currently proposed. And I was just wondering why things got shifted a little more into the buffer than.
So,
The pen there also, if you wanna, just don't look at it.
so this is the proposed property line, or the existing property line as it stands now. Once upon a time, it was further located up through here. So during the title search that we performed, we found that the applicant never truly owned that parcel of land and title. So the property line went from here down to here, if you will.
So you squeezed everything into the
To get out
smaller
of the
piece.
setbacks.
Correct. So because of the
Beside
shift in the
lot line
property line, the setbacks effectively sucked into the property itself, and we had to realign the buildings while maintaining all the appropriate setbacks and spacing between the buildings in order to have it physically fit on the property itself. The major change, or minor change, if you will, relative to this plan was in order to relocate the buildings within the original limits of disturbance in order to make sure that they meet the zoning and building code setbacks as required.
Now, this project originally had those conditions that talked about, so, okay, actually, this has got a homeowners association?
Yes, it would have one.
Okay.
So like, I understand, I hear what Jim is saying. It's like I've got 5 buildings that have been shifted around, stuff's been moving around, and we're supposed to look at this as a minor mod. Would this actually be considered under the realm of a minor mod when we're looking at a change in the plans the way that we are?
So Madam Chair, if I may, so looking at this, from my point of view, and why I recommended the applicant seek a minor mod first. It's it's a cost-effective first step. Secondly, so first, the top house here, the deck was proposed at the 75. Now it's being proposed
In the yellow.
right. No, but so 80 feet
So you're
from
saying no closer
right. So
on the
so
first
this
one.
one's moving
Okay.
back. This one, was constructed or is proposed at the 75, still at the 75. This, was the deck was proposed to be constructed at the 75, and now the foundation's being proposed at the 75. Still, maybe a little bit close, more detrimental, but but this was probably 83 feet. It wasn't. And then this, this last house on the southerlymost house was wholly outside of it, and now we're at 95, 94. In terms of the increase of, yes, it is an increase of one building in the in the buffer. Do you show where the existing house is?
Matt, if you don't mind, I am the applicant. We are not the owners yet. We took over this project. And are you all familiar with 71 Powers?
Oh, yeah, well,
yeah.
we've been out there, walked it many
Yeah.
times. I mean, there was a special thing that was gonna be out here. Now there's homes, and now this is the reiteration of the homes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there is a, so when we stepped in, it was advertised to us, everything's good to go. And they said, well, we actually don't own this piece of land. Well, so we've kind of came in after, well, you probably know more about this than we do. I guess it was industrial that got approved, but then it didn't get built, and then it went to residential. So what we're trying to do is basically salvage a project we believe is a good project. We're going to, the buildings are falling over. They're a hazard out there.
Oh, I know it.
There's a lot of material that's strewn about. So we're going to go in there. We're going to take them down. We're going to clean it up. And what, because of losing that land, and then the setbacks that, in order to make it fit, we had to push it that way, and we actually went with a house plan to pull up the deck.
This is gonna work. I just wanna make sure we can do what we're trying to do in the context that we're trying to do it in.
Yep, I'm pulling up the,
I like your Paneri, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
His watch.
the.
Italian, most people don't know.
I know.
Pulling up the full site plan, as, you know, because I wanted to show the existing house is at 50 feet. So, you know, that's the existing house, the existing barn's at, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was my rationale at, you know, when,
So let's just make sure that if we're gonna do this under a minor mod, we clearly identify why we believe this meets that. So when somebody comes in and is seeking the same relief, we can tell them, well, we did it here, but we may not be able to provide you the same accommodation.
So you're basically saying, let's make sure we're not doing something here that would set a precedent we wouldn't want to honor for
Right,
other projects.
exactly. But I don't have a problem with what's being proposed. I just want to make sure if we do it here, we identify why we're doing it here and not open the doors.
Okay. Jim?
The entranceway and the roadway aren't changing at all, right?
Correct.
So then how come these last two houses on the right are being moved at all? Why couldn't they stay where they were and stay out, well outside what is it, it's a 100-foot buffer? Like, why can't this guy stay where it was, and likewise here too?
So when we did the shift from the red line house on the upper northerly property line, if you will,
Yeah.
that shift required us to put the building where it is shown as now. And then from there, it kind of compounded itself as you went around the sub.
I understand why I had to move that one, but why did you have to move these? Because you're actually moving closer to each other than, instead,
So-
if they left where they were, they would have been farther apart, right?
Are there setbacks that are basically, well, so,
From the, because of the sewer and the water.
yeah, because on both ends, they're kind of, the new house location is, they're kind of swinging in on themselves as opposed to everybody shifting over.
Correct. So,
Why do you even have to shift these two is my question. This guy, I understand, if you're moving that one, you move this one, you move this one. Why can't these two stay where they were? Then you'd have no houses closer, no buildings closer to the wetland buffer. I'm not sure, like you said, that why crunch the?
The top one there, Jim, isn't that outside of our? The top one there.
He's talking about the.
Yeah, I was talking about that
Yeah,
one
but
there,
it
I
just-
get that.
If this was outside it, then we wouldn't have to worry about it, right? It would be outside where it was before, and like that one, and that one. have the same
That was
space.
outside anyway.
Right,
Yeah, but
you have
it
the
just-
same space.
So really, the only one you need to, the only one that I see where you might have an exception there
Is this one.
is that one.
Right, right.
But you're getting more buffer to Powers Road, and what is he, he's just got that corner within like 90? He
Yeah,
can't be
something
close to the
like that,
90, so
80,
I'm okay with that.
I guess we're kind of interested in the thought process in terms of, were there other factors that caused the two houses on the right?
Yes, well, and to what he pointed out, it does move it back and more of a buffer from Powers. And the way that was oriented, the original one, it was coming off of the entrance there. So that was the back of the house, that where the block on the back is the back deck and the front. So it actually came off of the driveway in, and we thought that was just a very bad design. It didn't make it part of the neighborhood, and it kind of put it out on Powers. So now it's kind of making it more of a community feel, bringing them all together and orienting it so it's
Part of the cul-de-sac instead of
Yes.
coming off the
It's more
road
a
there,
cul-de-sac.
which makes sense.
Okay. Any further?
Pedestrian trail easement gonna stay, 15 foot?
So we don't own that piece, or stepping in, we don't own this yet. It's all, we have it under contract contingent to approvals. So what we did, we couldn't, honor that agreement that the previous applicant had because that's no longer part of the property. What we did is a 15-foot easement along the property line that would be for a trail if it ever was to be used in the future. As you see up there, the proposed 15-foot wide pedestrian easement. I don't know if that will ever get used, and the reason being is there's a box culvert that's on what they thought they owned before, and it would be, if I say this here, there's a box culvert roughly right in this area here. It's beautiful, actually. It's granite, and that is the old walkway going along there, the old railway. So right now, we did put it on there, and we'll honor it at any point, but it would just funnel foot traffic to go onto the neighbor's property. We approached him to try to see if he would agree to the rail trail, and he said no, he wouldn't. But if it ever comes to the point where this will serve a purpose, then yes, we've agreed to that as far as we can.
Okay, so you have.
Elimination of the trail easement should also be a part of this minor mod then.
Is that, I know that was on the planning.
I remember we talked about it.
I think it's
back
in the
2
order.
versions ago.
Okay. If it is, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's also part of the ZBA, I believe, ZBA's decision as well as planning's as well.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty consistent.
Yeah, I don't see, outside of it being on the plan of record,
Right.
I don't see any special condition, you know, again, which.
It's on the plan though.
Right, it was on the plan, and, you know, and again, it is, you know, as proposed, and again, where it is in the ZB, that's not the right plan. In the ZBA's minor modification plan,
Is the 15-foot, here's an easement here, yeah. Is that 15-foot easement inside this property now, or is it outside?
Inside.
Inside the property.
Okay.
So this plan identifies, should that come to pass, this is where it will be.
Well, it says it's gonna be there, but it's
Well-
gonna, it's gonna end over here and not
Well,
connect to anything?
so right now, how we in front of the ZBA and planning, they said it basically it's an easement for a future use if there ever is gonna be something back here. And so it's gonna show all the way back. This is all wetlands, and the box culvert somewhere right in this area here. I would imagine if it ever becomes a proper trail, it would have to go over that culvert, otherwise.
Zigzag over it.
So,
I mean,
so this is, someday when the adjacent parcels may be owned by somebody else.
It is owned by the.
No, but
oh.
I mean somebody different than it's owned by
Yes,
today.
yes, if in the future, and Ideal Block owns the, this part that would be, back in this portion, and we approached them, really nice guys, they said, Max, absolutely not, we got heavy equipment, that would be a liability for us, so we, because we tried to actually get it, even though it wouldn't be on our property, to get it still approved by approaching the neighbors, and they said that they, weren't inclined to at this time.
So long after we're all gone, property changes hands, there's a possibility that there's a trail.
they could open up a trail because
Absolutely,
that.
sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And so what you're doing here is you're basically saying, should that ever come to pass, we've already made accommodations.
Yes.
So, as part of the ZBA decision, prior to, I think it was occupancy or something like that, town council and property owners will all get into agreement on the verbiage of the easement, and the easement to be granted to the town. In, like Max said, in the event that something does happen and everybody wants to start
Yeah,
working
here-
together again. Yeah, right
The
there.
applicant shall work with the town council, to provide 50-foot easement.
So there would be a permanent line in the sand, if you will, on the property saying that if it ever does come to be, you have full ability to do what you want in this 15-foot swath.
Okay.
Okay, it's the best you can ask for.
Any other questions? Matt, you're all.
Nope, I would recommend a minor modification as,
So can I have a motion to approve the requested minor modification?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. And then we're good with it. So what would be the expiration date on the, 2-year extension?
The 2-year. 10/27?
I'm sorry, what was that?
2/10/27.
2/10/27. Okay, so can I have a motion to extend the order of conditions for DEP file number 334-1786 to February 10th, 2024?
27.
I'm sorry, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, board. Have a good night.
you too. Now, do I need to sign, we need to
Nope,
sign?
that's
no,
another one.
That's the next one, okay. Moving on to our next agenda item, order of conditions extension request for Hart Pond, Association.
It's on the town of Westford's, or town of Chelmsford's, contractor to perform the lake management services of Hart Pond, reached out, provided the extension request that was in the meeting packet, along with their kind of their most recent year-end report for 2023 for the management of the water body. They've been communicative and received reports in timely fashion, and if they weren't able to attend tonight, they had another meeting, but if there are questions, I did say we could recommend we could table it, and for, but if there are no, again, this is fairly consistent with this order of conditions was issued in 2021, and, the commission in the past for other lake management orders have continued them.
I don't see where there's any question.
Any comments or questions?
There's a lot of invasive species removal, right? There's a lot of invasive species in there. There's one kind they mentioned, right?
Yeah, there's two predominant species, the curly leaf pondweed and fanwort. Yeah, I don't think it's actually milfoil. Yeah, but that's the, and so that's,
So what's the expiration date on this?
that would be, the date of expiration would be June 24th, 2027.
Being found in the drinking. 20 what?
2027.
Okay,
27?
so can I have a motion to extend the order of conditions for file number for DEP file number 334-1761 to June 24th, 2027?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to review and execute a 2-year lease extension for the day agricultural and conservation land.
I have been in touch with the lessee. They are reviewing the drafted lease extension, and did communicate that we're gonna re-examine the area by the apiary where the drip lines had been kind of stashed and started to get overgrown, but they are interested in pursuing continuing farming there.
Or they're not?
They are.
Jim?
Just to confirm, the updated lease has a summary of the,
It's included in the email that I sent to them. I specified the sections of the lease agreement with which the drip lines, the lease payment and the soil testing, reiterated to them the importance on,
their obligations.
the timeliness of, complying with that, and that is stated explicitly in the lease agreement. And if it isn't, adhered to, the commission would,
Okay, so you, in the email, you summarized the items that are scattered throughout the lease?
Yes.
And put them in one? Okay,
Yes.
all right. but in the lease itself, there's still.
It's
right around-
still the same, format as, had previously been reviewed. Again, didn't want to change that too much from what, had been
They
previous.
understand what they have to do.
Yes.
Okay, so they're reviewing it and we'll get back to you.
Yep.
It's so cold.
Oh,
You got a hand cramp there?
Yes, it's freezing.
I'm gonna get
Matt, it's above us, that's why.
I'll get you mittens next time. Well, again, we weren't sure it was gonna work for the entire meeting.
It's
so-
working.
my air conditioner on in the car because it's cold. I mean, I
On now, we're
understand
just
that.
about there, folks.
Oh, my God.
The CSX Pan Am Railway right-of-way vegetation management plan,
Haven't been contacted by them, but we're done with our part.
but, exactly, included was Jim's letter of liability release not to sue. So, there isn't the holdup or, we didn't, you can't participate. 20 Keys Road, I do not have an update. Also for the Stony Brook Conservation Area, user concern, we don't have, I don't have an update for that. Again, we are looking to get them in place, again, for the upcoming weeks as, there have been, a resident did reach out that, the boathouse had been broken into or opened up. I don't know which, and the canoes, a canoe or two had been removed. I reached out to the facility coordinator up there to make sure it was secured and to get them back into the, because especially with weather like we had so far this week and, for the rest of this week, there are, there's going to be the desire to, cool off, and so that was something of note that we received.
What time are we gonna, or what week of, or the year, or what month are we gonna start putting the high school kids out there at the?
That's going to be, again, it's, I'm working with the rec department in terms of, the hiring of them.
Coordinate essentially the same time that they use their.
Right, exactly.
Other town beaches.
Yes, I mean, and, the recreation director did express concerns kind of towards the end of the season, particularly as they're more college students and, they start going back to school in August. But, where they are around now and, we'll work on getting them established and getting the process and kind of your role and guidelines for out there for the summer months. And I think
Are
Monday's
they gonna
supposed to be-
wear anything that will distinguish them?
I mean, we can certainly make sure to get them, something with the town seal on it, and.
Or shirt or
Yeah,
something?
right, I think,
I'd like
again,
that,
I think there is something with, I'll have to double check that with the rec
Okay,
department.
but I think
'cause
there should
again-
be a consistent, uniform piece that it becomes identified with who these people are.
Yep, no, that's a good point.
Moving right along, because I'm freezing.
Yeah, but he's,
No, you can keep continuing, I can
okay,
just take a
so,
short
okay,
notes.
so Edward Ward's Conservation Area, restoration of disturbed area.
I don't have an update at this time.
Well, and
I know
where-
you, I was gonna ask Noelle if she had, because you had mentioned removing the,
I went in there and took out a whole bunch of the garlic mustard, and as I was doing that, I realized there's a lot of bittersweet in there.
A lot of what?
And
Bittersweet.
bittersweet.
You should send
And,
Margaret there.
Yeah, but it's also lots and lots of poison ivy
Okay.
everywhere. Yeah,
So, okay.
so.
You don't need that.
And maybe maybe you and I just plan to meet there someday and kind of look at it and say, okay, can we come up with a plan? Is there a place to start where we can at least get something done? And bringing involved, you
There
and
is a
I
lot
are-
more garlic mustard that needs to come up.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, there's
I'm-
that, there's ivy, there's a lot of,
Yeah, well, and some of this is also, when you say ivy, you mean ivy other than poison ivy?
yeah.
Okay, because I think some of it also is maybe you and I can meet and we can prioritize, because to me, garlic mustard's at the top of the list, having
Yeah.
seen what it can do.
There's a
So,
huge patch of it.
Yeah, so we can kind of start chipping away. Okay. Is it shady there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Freedom Park is not. Okay. So Freedom Park improvement, thank you, Noel, that Broad Fork is a wonderful tool. I was given one for Mother's Day because I liked it so much. So I'm going back, the day, I think it was the day that we were there, all of a sudden we discovered that, you know what, there's more than just bittersweet, there's poison ivy there as well. So, so I'm,
Sick from that too.
huh?
Get really sick from that too.
Yeah, so I handle it with a great deal of caution, but yeah, so I'm gonna keep working on that. But I happened to be there Tuesday when the highway department was there mowing it to make it look nice for Memorial Day, and I kind of wanted to make sure that the guy on the mower didn't try mowing where I was working. And he said, no, it wasn't good for his mower. But anyway, apparently there were originally boulders installed to demarcate where you mow and where you don't mow. They do, in terms of the area near the pond, their practice is twice a year to clean it up, Memorial Day and Labor Day. And so one of the concerns he had mentioned was if we're looking to put in native plantings close to the pond, if we want them to mow it once a year to keep you know, trees and other things from growing up, we need to be really careful about what we plant to make sure that the vegetation that grows up there is something that their equipment can handle. So I think we maybe need to have some conversations, because one of the points made about the boulders was that then they felt the need to string trim the grass around them, and that became a time issue that with departments trying to be efficient, they said, well, if we get rid of the boulders, we can just mow. So I think we maybe need to
Connect with Kyle and the parks foreman, supervisor?
Yeah.
I forget what his title is. About what, you know, get some input from the town staff as to what's the best way to kind of achieve everybody's, our goals while still, you know, being mindful of, you know, the town staff that do have to maintain it. So I can certainly line that up.
Yeah, because apparently some of those guys have a problem with poison ivy. So, Summer Village conservation restriction.
Don't have an update. I have not followed up with their environmental consultant. Also, just because they, curious as to when a notice of intent will be filed under the state's Wetlands Protection Act for
The stuff that lapsed.
Yes, exactly. I do not have an update on the vegetation cutting at the Jarvis Hill Estates.
Just make that what do you call it, enforcement order?
I don't think it was within proximity of a wetland resource.
It doesn't apply with CR violations.
No, I don't have anything to update, but I will have, in 3 weeks, I will have an update.
What happens in 3 weeks?
There's another meeting.
Pardon me?
We'll have an our next
have another
meeting.
It just, yeah, it's bubbling up on the priority
Yeah, this was
list.
January, I think.
Yeah, and-
right around.
Yeah,
New Year.
but he's busy.
I'd like
I know,
to-
I know.
Don't think I wouldn't like to not, you know, say that every week. The planning board received an application for the development of 7 Carl Thompson Road. They are proposing a contractor, the term is,
Contractor's yard?
I don't think it's contractor.
Very much like Sullivan Tire place.
Yeah, kind of. 13 units, parking related infrastructure. They filed with the planning board for a major commercial project, special permit, a water resource overlay protection district, special permit application, parking reduction, special permit application, and a stormwater management permit application. As shown on the plans, it has been developed to be wholly outside of the commission's jurisdiction. Yes, Jim, you nodding your head.
Yep.
Hey, I'm with you too. But it is included as in the town's zoning bylaw. When a special water resource overlay protections district special permit is applied for, the commission is provided the application. If the commission,
Consideration. to
yes.
the thing, yeah.
So if you have comments, if the commission would like to provide comments, I'd be happy to write them up and provide them. But if there are no comments, or if you'd like to just speak individually as residents, you are also more than welcome to do that. Hearing none. On to next. The enforcement order that was issued for the following up from, I guess, 2 meetings ago at 30 Preservation Way. The property owner kind of gave a brief update as they're, showing their progress, which was, certainly fantastic to see in terms of the river birches, and although it kind of gets washed out on the screen, and red maple, and a balsam fir and a red oak. So, yes.
I don't know how I feel about the dyed mulch around the trees, and when it volcanoes up like that into the tree, it chokes out the tree, so that really should be spread away from the, you know what I mean?
I'll follow up with them on that. I don't,
Yeah, because if it, and
yeah, I don't know if
It'd be
it's.
a moat of,
Yeah,
so
I
the
think
water
that's.
can-
I think that does show. Isn't that kind of the? I don't know.
yeah, because you don't want the
Yeah.
mulch
That- that-
touching
that
the
looks-
bark.
Dyed mulch, so that, I don't,
The brown carpet.
yeah.
All right. Well, I can certainly ask. But
Okay.
Minutes.
Two of us at the end.
Any comments or changes to the minutes for May 8th?
Nope. Good.
We have a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting of May 8th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Actually, one more thing. Noel, did you ever hear back from AgCom about your request to change the night of the meeting?
So I did go to the Tuesday meeting. They requested that we send them a copy of Fala's soil testing.
okay. I mean, it's in the meeting pack. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was the only thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but, I'm just gonna go when it works out. They're gonna switch back and forth between Mondays and Tuesdays, so when
Okay.
it works out, I'll go. But otherwise, they're gonna email me.
Okay, and so, yeah, because sometimes they can't make it either, or, yeah.
Pretty bad
Other
when I
people.
reached
Okay.
back for something and then I remembered I brought nothing,
Any other business?
No, thank you.
Do you have anything to do with the swans? At-
I was made aware of it by the town manager's office and the animal control officer. I don't have a dog, so I can't go out, nor do I have a boat. No, I mean, so I'm letting the appropriate law enforcement authorities handle that. That's,
What was this?
there were 2 swans that were shot over Shipley, Shipley Swamp. I think again, looking at GIS, it's likely, yeah, likely on Conservation Commission, on property under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission, but there's sufficient law enforcement handling the investigation.
Okay, so
and-
they'll report back to us? and
Yeah,
we'll
I
see if
mean,
there's
again, as the
anything-
property owner,
Maybe put a sign up?
Don't shoot this one.
I mean, so, if they're
that's,
caught,
it's so,
it's,
I don't think you can just walk around with your gun.
I don't
Okay.
have anything.
Are they actively pursuing it?
To my knowledge, yes. They're actively investigating it. I don't have anything with which to
Share.
contribute to that, so I will keep the commission apprised as I become
I'm freezing.
informed.
Can we be dismissed?
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.